Hello and welcome to One Cool Thing, PC Mag's daily show where we talk to you about a cool thing that we've been reviewing here in PC Labs. I'm Tom Brandt, this is Matt Buzzy, and today for you we have a very special product called the Microsoft Surface Go. It was announced a couple weeks ago, and it is basically like they took a Surface Pro, which you might be familiar with, one of the best detachable tablets you can buy, and they put it in a clothes dryer. And they put it on the medium dry setting, basically, and it came out looking like this.
Yep. The keyboard, as you know from the Surface line, its whole thing is that you can do this. It can be a tablet. The kickstand's built in. It really is, for all intents and purposes, a miniature version of the Surface. We can talk about what that means and what's inside and what the compromises are to get this. In addition to the size, the price point is kind of the main appeal. It's cheap comparatively to the mainline Surface product.
So basically, with the Surface line, Microsoft kind of invented the ultimate Windows tablet, and but kind of like Apple did with the iPad, at some point they realized people might want a smaller device that's cheaper, and so I'm assuming that was their thought. That was like a gross oversimplification of their thought process.
Yes, yeah. They have the original Surface, the Surface Pro, and then they have the Surface Laptop, which is somewhere in between, but more of an actual laptop. The Surface Book, which is an even bigger version, and then they're now let's go smaller, and the Surface Studio if you want to get into the desktop space. Yeah. So the line, this really fills out the lineup, and there's two medium-ish options, a big option, and now a tiny option.
With a tiny price.
With a tiny price.
$399.
$399 starting price. So the Surface is generally around $1,000-ish for most of the SKUs, or more. You can definitely get ones that are more expensive than that. The higher SKU'd ones can be thousands of dollars. $399 starting point for this. The one we have is $550. I'll tell you the difference between those two in a second. The keyboard is sold separately, which we'll also get to. Kind of irritating because you kind of need it if you want to actually use it for doing work. So the $399 version, which is not the one we have, as a reminder, comes with a 64 gigabyte for storage flash memory. It's not an SSD, it's not a hard drive, it's flash memory, which you see a lot on like Chromebooks and some other inexpensive systems. And it only has 4 gigabytes of RAM. So $399. All that said, it's the same. It really does feel, if you've ever used the actual normal Surface, it really does feel like the same thing. It's a nice premium magnesium build. The kickstand's built in, full range of adjustability. The screen is touch, and it's really sharp. It's pretty high resolution. So all of that's the same. Really, you're compromising on the components, which 4 gigs of RAM, I know, not the most exciting thing. It has a Y series lower wattage processor to fit in this fanless design, so it doesn't overheat. And that, unfortunately, does make it a bit on the slower side. Even for the unit we have here, which is 8 gigabytes of RAM and a 128 gigabyte SSD. So it's a little quicker, still not the fastest thing around.
So, but you can still do a ton of stuff with it. We're going to talk about what you can do with it, but first let's take a question.
What does it become preloaded with? So it's Microsoft Windows. What does that entail? Is it a special version of Windows?
Ooh, yes.
So yeah, so it actually has. It comes with Windows S on it, which I know you're probably like, oh, you're turning away right now, but hold on.
If you know what it is, we've already lost you.
Yes,
sorry.
Yeah.
If you don't.
Yeah, that's like a simplified touch-centric version of it, but they give you a free one-time irrevocable switch over to full Windows. And
yeah.
They don't let you go back and forth, which is like a little weird. I can kind of get their thought process, but if you decide, if you try to install a program, like I played around with Windows S for a bit, but then to put our benchmarking software on there, which are regular Windows programs, like, you know, like Word and anything like that would require you to do the same thing.
Yes, this is the main feature of Windows 10 S mode, which is that you cannot install applications.
Right. It's like child-friendly. It's kind of like, so
you basically, the only apps you can install in S mode are the apps that you get from the Microsoft Store.
Not traditional like programs with installs in the Windows directory and all the stuff you're used to with the file hierarchy and all that. They're just apps.
Thank you for asking that question. If you are a student or someone who's concerned about security or things like that, S mode might be for you because you're not going to be able to install malware. The Microsoft it will prevent it at the beginning. But for anyone else, you should definitely upgrade to Windows 10 Pro, which you can do, I believe.
Yes, very easily. So I played around with Windows S just to get some hands-on time with it, and yes, it's just the Windows Store. Otherwise, it's like it's kind of like Windows RT or like those old like Surface, the Windows 8 touch-focused things. It runs a little more like that. The second I went to install some of our benchmarking software, it was like we can't install this on Windows S. Do you want Windows, like full Windows 10? And it's like 2 clicks. It just prompts you, it takes you to the Windows Store, and it's like, here's your one-time upgrade, and you click it, and it didn't even take any time. It just kind of unlocked full Windows right then and there. So thank you for asking that question. Yes.
So let's take this away for a second and just talk about the tablet.
Yeah, let's just talk about the tablet.
It's $649, I think you said, for this 8 GB version.
$549.
$549.
Yeah.
What can you do with it?
So you can do anything. I mean, like I said, it is full Windows. The actual OS, we'll talk more about the benchmarking of speed. The actual OS and regular web browsing and everything is pretty snappy. Again, the 8 gig SSD version, going to be a little quicker than the $399 version, so it depends kind of what you can afford and need and what you're buying it for, and we could talk about use cases all day. A lot of apps on the Windows Store that could be used for education. When I went to Microsoft's sort of preview event, they kind of walked through some of the scenarios, which include like learning a language and using the, again, sold separately, Surface Pen to draw and learn other languages by tracing the characters and all sorts of things like that. There's uses for the medical sector or medical information, like they were doing like AR scanning of the skull and kind of rotating 3D figures on this. And so there's definitely uses. I can't speak to every use case out there. I don't know, what it's best used for in the classroom. I'm always a little skeptical of the past like 10-ish years of these classrooms buying these like iPads and things in bulk just because they feel like it's the new thing. Like I have to get the new, the new technology and they don't really have a curriculum to support that stuff or really make good use of it, but they're spending a lot of money on it. I think this could be a little bit more of a versatile tool.
Now, we'll get to your questions in a minute, but the reason that I took this keyboard off is because it costs extra.
Yes.
But you should buy it, though, because one of the key benefits of this over an iPad is that it runs Windows, which means you can use a cursor with it and a keyboard.
Yep.
So you can type, and although you can use a keyboard with an iPad, you don't get that cursor support.
Yeah, it's a lot more functional with the full keyboard. Also, I'm laughing because this attaches magnetically, and this metal table.
Yeah. But basically, though, how much is the keyboard?
So the keyboard. Bear with me. The keyboard is
okay.
This keyboard.
I just sit down for this.
Yeah, this is because it's gonna it takes a little of the shine off of the price point. Especially if you get the higher configured one, because it's already $550. That's not as head turning as kind of $399. The basic keyboard is another $99. So you're on that, and this is the which again, if you're concerned about price, you're frankly not going to get this one. But this is the $130 one with the Alcantara
with the nice
fabric.
So here's
finish.
the thing: you should plan to spend at a minimum for your Surface Go. $499.
Yes.
For a keyboard, because that is the key benefit of this over an iPad, I think.
Yes.
Let's take a question.
If you buy the $399 model, would you have trouble running Chrome as it now uses 2.5 gigs of memory?
I mean, I think you could. Yeah, I think you could have like the world's most expensive desktop, and it might struggle to run Chrome like a little bit. That thing is just a memory hog. It won't be bad just to browse the web. If you open too many tabs, there's probably going to be some slowdown. That's pretty reasonable if you have a lot of apps running at once. But again, that's not really unique to this either. You'll see again in the benchmarks we compared it to all sorts of things in its price range and above, and there's frankly just a limit you can get out of something this small and this cheap, especially if you're trying to keep it low wattage with a fanless design in a tablet form. It just kind of, the performance is going to get impacted.
Well, let's look at those benchmarks, but first let's take another question.
We got the inevitable, can you game on it?
No.
Well, Steve, but here's the thing, though. What do you mean by gaming? If you are a gamer, if you enjoy PC games, no, then the answer is no. But no. But Candy Crush works fine on this.
Yeah, any like simple 2D app. I'm sure you can play
games,
Hearthstone on here fine, for example.
Yeah, those all work. So
I'm actually curious how well like Fortnite would run on this thing. I should launch that up and try.
I mean,
because I've played Fortnite on like integrated graphic systems. It runs on low, but it runs.
If you are sitting on the bus on your way to or from work or wherever you're going, you can play any game that any of those type of games, Civilization games like that.
Yeah, like lower graphic stuff, a lot of 2D stuff. You can run those things. You won't get good performance. You'll have to slow it down. Definitely not an actual PC gaming machine. If you are interested in that, the Surface Book, the high-end Surface Book 2, We're talking about a much different price range, but it comes with discrete graphics, so it can actually do that.
Yeah, and speaking of graphics and benchmarks and things like that, you can see here, this is why you can't play games on it.
Yeah.
These numbers here, all you need to know is that these numbers are very bad, but it's not just the Surface Go.
Yeah, you can see across the board that they are all very bad.
So everything here is bad.
Yeah,
everything
here is
I'm
bad.
looking at.
It's bad at 3D. They're just not. They're very inexpensive. Having good 3D performance is sort of the realm of specialized media workstations and gaming laptops. You're just not going to get good performance out of it. You can see that even the much more expensive Surface Pro, which we kind of just put in there as a point of comparison because it's part of the product family, does okay-ish, but once you bump it up to native resolution or anything, if you're not playing 720p, like you're going to get some really low scores.
Let's take another question.
To sum up, who should be considering this? Who are the main targets?
So yeah, anyone who's going to travel a lot, but travel a lot and not need to do like hardcore workstation work away from their desk. If you're going to word process, if you're on a lot of planes, if you would like to work on your commute and get an extra hour of work in on the train or whatever, it's a good option for those people. I don't think it's necessarily just professionals. I think, like I said, it's going to appeal to classrooms. You could probably buy a bunch of these for the classroom and keep it on Windows S mode and get some use out of it that way. I know it's not like an individual kind of consumer focus, but that is a large part of the concept behind it. Microsoft talked a lot about classrooms and education and stuff like that in their preview, so that is definitely kind of what they're thinking with it. Like I said, the medical, like people carry around tablets and nurses and things carry around tablets, or they have tablets set up, and so something that's kind of cheap but faster might be a decent option for those scenarios. If you're a student, I also think it's a somewhat appealing option. An older student, I should say, if you're taking it to class for college or whatever, I think this is perfectly fine to bring with you. It's a little cramped to type on. We don't really talk about the keyboard. This is a little small. I wouldn't want to write a whole really essay on this thing, but if you're taking notes or sticky keys. If you're taking notes or just kind of more short, or you're typing to someone or emailing, whatever, I think it's perfectly fine for all that. And so it's really an on-the-go type thing. You have to want to take it places. But
there are a couple specific categories of people that we didn't mention. I think they are selling a version of this just for enterprise users, right? So they're giving Windows 10 Pro versions of this to corporate clients who are buying
there's like
in bulk.
A commercial version too.
And then they're also selling this at Costco for
there's some
combo.
There's some mixed SKU between the two that you can buy straight from Microsoft. I think it comes with the keyboard bundled, and I forget exactly what the price is, but it's some sort of mix between the two SKUs that Microsoft offers. So if you're near Costco, maybe you can check that out.
So would you buy this over an iPad or an Android tablet?
I think if you plan to use it in at least somewhat replacement of a laptop or a desktop that you have at home, yes, over those options. Obviously, people are very iOS Windows to begin with, and if you're just agnostic to one, if you're OS agnostic, then I would recommend this over that. If you're tied to one very specifically, then you're probably going to have a stronger preference one way or the other. I think if you are open to and use Windows, this is a great option. It's an inexpensive option. It's not, again, benchmarks here, we didn't really talk about the other benchmarks. It's a little on the slow side, but no slower than kind of all the $200 to $500 tablets. They're just not that fast.
Yeah,
they're cheap.
And ultimately, if you have like a MacBook Pro or some other really expensive laptop that you carry around with you a lot, but you also want a tablet to like relax on the couch or something, you might, but still want more capabilities on there than iOS offers.
Yeah.
This is a similarly priced. At least without the keyboard, is similarly priced to the iPad, but then you have to get the keyboard. So that's the conundrum here, really, is that this is more expensive than an iPad if you buy it in the configuration that's the most useful, basically. Looks like we're all good with... Oh, no,
we have another one.
We're good, okay.
Just one last one. Is the pen input good?
The pen input is good. The Surface Pen, it's the same Surface Pen, I believe, that works on the other Surface products. It's a $99 separate purchase. They did talk about maybe offering a cheaper one because they realized that's a little expensive and kind of helps defeat the purpose, again, of the price point. But the input on the pen is very smooth. It also attaches magnetically to the side. I will say also that reminded me that this is a little narrow to use in your lap. I wrote about this on my review. You can read this in more detail, but
it doesn't
it's
fit
because
on your lap.
It was already a bit of a kind of a stretch with the regular Surface because you got to keep your legs kind of close together. Make sure this is like you kind of got to sit like with your knees together almost because it's not wide enough to just straddle your legs. So it's kind of like sitting there kind of hunched. So it's not necessarily the most ideal for having it on your lap. So maybe more of a airplane with a tray than in the train or something.
Just don't let it fall off.
Yeah, but on that note, the battery life is good. It got
what's the battery
got
life?
about 10 hours on a battery rundown test, which is pretty good for a small thing. There were a couple others on the benchmark chart there with
better ones.
with a
Obviously,
little bit
the
longer.
Surface Pro
The
was
Surface
bigger
Pro,
battery.
yeah. The Lenovo Flex 611 is kind of another inexpensive option that lasted a little bit longer. The cheap IdeaPad Mix 320 also lasted a little longer, but all kind of the same ballpark. It's long enough to last off the charger for hours on end, and I think you'll be fine, especially if you're just emailing or typing something.
And not only that, but while you're using it, it won't get hot because the chip is thermally constrained. There's no fan noise, anything like that. So anyway, yeah, basically an intriguing option from Microsoft, the Surface Go, $399. Not our editor's choice, though. If you want a tablet, our best bet there is the iPad. Or if you want a Windows tablet, our best bet there, I think, is
one of the mixes, depending on your price point.
The IdeaPad Mix 520, which is a bit more expensive, but much more capable.
Yep.
But still an intriguing option. Check out the full review of the Surface Go at PCMag.com, where you will find a bunch of photos of it in use on your slipping around on your lap,
falling through my knees,
all the things we just described. And please come back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live, where we will have yet another one cool thing for you.